Before changing the toothed belt on a vehicle, you will need to make a few preparations to ensure that the procedure goes smoothly. To do this, you will need individual dismantling and installation instructions and possibly specialist tools. This video shows how to change a toothed belt on a VW Golf 5 with a 1.6-litre petrol engine. Allow the vehicle to cool down, then remove the engine covers, the corresponding wheel housing, and the front wheel, and drain the coolant. Depending on the model of your vehicle, you may also need to remove other components in order to get at the screws on the engine mount. If this is the case, undo the activated carbon canister, the coolant reserve tank and the filler pipe for the wiper water tank, then remove the obstructing fuel pipe. You can now undo the screws on the engine mount. Before you can remove the engine mount, you will need to set up an engine cradle as a lifting beam and fasten the engine to it. Once this is done, you can remove the remaining screws and the engine mount. Next, take off the top toothed belt cover so that you can access the area with the camshaft. Using the crankshaft, you now need to move the top and bottom control marks manually until they align and the upper dead point on the first cylinder has been reached. If possible, you should now raise the vehicle on the lifting platform in order to perform the next work steps. Next, undo the screws on the crankshaft belt disc and remove them. Once the belt disc has been removed, the bottom toothed belt cover can also be taken off. The entire toothed belt system is now accessible and all the components are visible. Loosen the nut on the belt pulley, carefully pull the toothed belt off, and then remove the belt pulley as well. In this case, we can see that the toothed belt has also become porous due to aging. During most tooth belt changes, you will also need to replace the coolant pump. On this vehicle, the traces of coolant indicate that the coolant pump is already leaking. All the information required to change the coolant pump can be found in the video gallery under Replacing the Coolant Pump. Now, take the new toothed belt and belt pulley out of the packaging and compare them with the old components. Do not forget at this point to read the enclosed installation instructions. If the components match, continue with the installation by first placing the toothed belt loosely in place. Mount the new belt pulley in its position, then fasten it in place using the nut. When inserting the toothed belt, make sure that the control marks on the camshaft and crankshaft are aligned. The marks must be aligned correctly. Now turn the belt pulley slowly from left to right as far as it will go, then back and forth several times until the pointer lines up with the notch in the bearing plate. Once this position has been reached, you can tighten the nut on the belt pulley with a torque of 20 Nm. Next, reattach the bottom toothed belt cover and then mount the crankshaft belt disc. Tighten the screws with 10 Nm plus 90 degrees. Check that the toothed belt is seated correctly by manually moving the crankshaft 2 rotations right to the upper dead point of the first cylinder. The crankshaft should turn through the last 45 degrees evenly. If the control marks or the pointer and the notch on the belt pulley are not aligned, repeat the tensioning procedure. Finally, assemble all the components in the reverse order to dismantling, making sure that they are seated properly and function correctly. The cooling system will need to be refilled, bled and checked to ensure that it's not leaking. Document the toothed belt change using a sticker in the engine compartment.